Hey, it's John and Mike, brew-hues.com. Pick number 2 from the 12th pick of the Jar of Destiny Homebrewing Challenge. There's a lot of numbers, but in the end, we just have beer. And my choice, or at least what the jar chose for me, was style 32A. It's a classic style smoked beer. And, there's a lot of different choices that I had for this. I could have just done a classic Rausch beer, I guess, but no, there's other styles in which you can bring smoked malts to and have a fun thing. And I was looking at the actual style guidelines, and I saw Alaskan Smoked Porter, a classic craft beer from, I don't know, for the past 30 years or so. So much so that there was a guy I worked with, he was a sales dude, and I did a favor for him, and he's like, John, I'll pay you back. And he called it Alaskan Microbrews. And I always thought it would be this. That dude's never paid me back for anything. But Ken, if you're watching, I still want my beer. You owe me. So this is the Alaskan Smoked Porter. One thing that I wanted to amp up my challenge, I wanted to smoke my own malt. So we'll talk about that. And so I just wanted to show off all my fun DIY Alton Brown era of myself, because at that point, who could afford a green egg? You can just get 2 big ceramic clay pots and an electric burner and a pie pan and some wood chips and smoke whatever you want. So we smoked our own malt. I'll just say that, just to briefly go off the recipe, Alderwood apparently is the wood that they use to smoke the malt for this beer.
Okay.
So with the power of the internet, I was able to get a bag of wood chips from the alder tree and smoked it up. So here's the recipe. Starting off with water. This is spring water with 4 grams of gypsum. Grains, 10 pounds in total of the raw American two-row malt. 2 pounds of that was held aside to be smoked in my backyard. And we smoked it for, I was going to do it for an hour, and then I noticed that it wasn't like one layer of grains, so I had to sort of mix it around as best I could. And it turned out to be, I started to futz around in my shed. I was cleaning out my shed. It became more of a 2.5-hour project, but we got a nice smoke ring around that particular batch of malt. 1 pound of 60-degree Love crystal malt, 1/2 pound of pale chocolate malt, and 1/2 pound of black patent malt. So this is, what I think is a standard, robust porter with some smoky elements, and that should be fine. Hops, I had some homegrown hops from Magnum. Did 1.5 ounces, 42 grams of Magnum hops for 60 minutes. If you don't have homegrown Magnum hops, try Galena, or even Chinook would be good. For yeast, I did 1 packet of Cellar Silence Cali American Ale dry yeast. Mashed grains at 152 degrees Fahrenheit, 67 degrees Celsius for an hour. Boiled for 75 minutes. Just trying to get that original gravity to where I wanted to be. Added hops, so they boiled for 60 minutes. Fermented in my basement, which turned out to be more like 62 degrees Fahrenheit, 17 degrees Celsius for a week, and that thing still had a krausen on it, so that's when I need to ramp up the temp. Did that for 3 days, and once the krausen dropped, I threw it in my fridge just to cold condition it for a couple of days, and then got it into my keg. Original gravity on this baby is 1065. Final gravity, 1014. Apparent ABV percentage of 6.7. IBUs, I'm guessing 45.
Great.
Or so. So, what do you think, sir?
When you pulled this ticket 3 months ago, I was like, okay, smoked beer, great. I'm not a big fan of smoked beers in general, but man, I love this beer. I love this beer. It's not like, it's by no stretch of the imagination is it smoke you in the face, slap you in the face smoky, right?
No.
It's not like that, but but there is a subtle smoke aroma on the nose, and it's almost like smoked almonds in a way, but very, very light, very subtle. I'm getting a lot of the roast malt still coming through.
Yep.
Right? It's still coming through there. But in combination with that subtle smokiness, if I didn't know it was a smoky beer, I would almost mistake it as like some sort of chocolate porter, because I am getting a definitive like chocolate, milk chocolate type of aroma out of here. But then occasionally on the second sniff, it's like, wait a minute, that's smoke. Like it's, so there's definitely like a crackery, smoky quality to it. And then on the palate, as far as the base porter goes, it is, even though it's super dark in color, it is approachably roasty. And I think the big thing that I wanted to comment on the recipe too is the pound of Crystal 60 in here, I think is like the mortar that's holding the whole beer together. And I think like crystal malts get a lot of like bad press, but in a beer like this and not being afraid to go to a full pound of Crystal 60, I mean, man, it is perfect. I love things like porters and brown ales and even certain stouts that have just a hint of that caramelness. So I think that caramelness with your pale chocolate, with the black patent, and then the smoke, is giving me that fun chocolate caramel hint of smoke. Like I say, this beer has just got a hint of smoke. The base porter is so good, and it's enhanced by just enough smoke level. I think you probably lucked out with your smoking effort, sort of drifting off into like a 2.5 hour smoke, because at 1 hour maybe it wouldn't have been this good, like this strong.
Yeah.
Because this isn't strong. I just mean
No.
it might be imperceptible. But I think it's all. I think it's nailed. True smoked beer purists would say there's just not enough smoke here.
Yeah, I know.
But from an experiential standpoint, like an enjoyment standpoint, I think this is beautiful. I think this is beautifully balanced.
Yeah, I didn't want, knowing that I would be the one stuck with the beer after all of this is done. I know that I don't like strongly smoked beers. And I know that my whole idea of this beer was to bring smoke so that it was in balance with the other flavors. Now, you read the style guidelines, there is saying that, smoke should be the prevalent note. It's there, and if I were to put this in competition, I would get knocked. I think they'd say, well, smoke's not strong. But it's in harmony with the other things. That's what I'd like to say. Like, there's smoke in here. But
most of the smoke for me is like residual palate. Like after I've swallowed it, there's that malty character, there's a chocolate character, there's the caramel character, and then it's smoky. A little bit of smoke on the back end. And I think it's certainly creating a very dynamic, complex beer drinking experience that is not challenging, but certainly intriguing to go, wait a minute, let me just taste this one more time. Right? I think there's smoke in there. So I love it. This is like, if you wanted to brew a beer to be intriguing, this one is super intriguing. I love it.
Yep.
And the color is absolutely beautiful. It just barely has some mahogany hues trying to hide and come out on the edges of the glass. It's great. Otherwise, it's got that nice brownish tan foam. I mean, it's a beautiful porter. Beautiful porter.
Yep.
Well done porter recipe. And you got your homegrown hops in here too. I mean, it's all working for you.
It's all
great.
working. Yeah. This was probably the hops that I harvested in 2003. 2023. 2003, you're like, wait a minute, that's a long time ago. No, like last year. So they were still in the freezer. I was cleaning them out. Yeah, I didn't really think too much about the pound of Crystal 60. The pale chocolate was an audible, because I saw recipes that called for the darker chocolate malt. But pale chocolate, I think that we've learned historically brings a nice.
It works really well with something else in the dark, really dark category.
I think that was my thought too, that I wanted to have the pale chocolate expression rather than the dark, because the smoke may not work so well.
I think that really deep crackery thing you get from pale chocolate with the smoke is where I'm getting that almondy thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like pale chocolate in like a nut brown, if you want to go back to like late 90s, early 2000s, like nut brown. I think that light chocolate is where that sort of comes from. It's got like a definitive graham cracker type of brown crusty thing going on for it. It's really beautiful.
Cool. All right, well, we'll post the recipe on our blog and also in the description in our YouTube video with all the information. Certainly feel like I'm happy with this. Not that I would think that it would work for, in a competition where you probably need to be strong out front with the smoke. But for me, and who's going to be drinking it this winter, I think I'm happy with it. And I'll take this as a win.
Total win.
All right. Well, thanks so much for watching. I hope you got something out of this video. If you like it, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, because we do this kind of thing every single week. Next week, we're going to choose, we're going to do another year of the Jar of Destiny. There's still more of those styles in the jar to pick out, so I guess we'll do it again. Just stay tuned next week. For John and Mike, brew-dudes.com, brew on.
Cheers.